Nice.
All right, man, we're coming towards the front. Yes, there we go. Looking good. There's lots of seats over here.
They're far over there.
Yeah, you guys have to split up.
Definitely be over here close to the stuff right here. Oh, wow.
Be like all right. Look at that row left for you guys right there. Anybody leave anybody upstairs? You're the last one. Can I hold you to that? So nobody else is counting. Okay. All right. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's a good energy group. They're 11 o'clock. You know, I'm impressed, actually. Right? It's not usually the case. I mean, 10 o'clock's actually, half asleep tour. So, welcome to the 11 o'clock tour. Now, let's see here. Anybody from out of town? Oh, that's shocking. Let's turn this around here. Is there any locals hiding in here somewhere? There they are. Did they bring somebody from out of town?
Yes.
You work out of town? No. Then you didn't bring anybody from out of town. You're from out of town? She's saving you right now. Where are you from?
New York and California.
Pick one.
I live in California. I'm born in New York.
Okay, so where are you? So California now?
California now.
Okay. Now, we were having a contest this morning about who came from the farthest distance to be with us today. Well, California's not going to win, but raise your hand if you think you might win. Boy, this is not a confident side over here right now. But I'm going to, the one that, yes, what do you got?
From
Paris?
Paris.
Oh.
Should have picked you last. You're supposed to wait, Paris. You're supposed to wait and get everybody's hopes up, right? They're like, oh yeah, like, let's pretend Paris isn't here for a minute. Let's say North America, right? You win the contest. Okay, nobody's arguing. Okay. Now if we're just North America. What do we got? Still nobody over here. But I learned my lesson on this side. I'm not picking anybody on this side. What do you got? San Antonio, Texas. All right, that's far. What do you got?
St. Louis, Missouri.
Ooh, dude, this is perfect. We're just working our way across the country. What do you got? Boston. Oh, we took a big jump there. Boston, that's okay.
Sarasota, Florida.
Sarasota, Florida. Yeah, that's the end of the continent right there. You know France is here, though. Anybody else? What do you got?
Plattsburgh, New York.
Oh, okay. This side, I don't know what do you got?
Baltimore.
Baltimore. See, that would have done pretty good, okay? But of course.
Idaho?
What?
Idaho?
No. The neighbor next door. No, you're not that far. Yes, in the back.
We're not very far, but LA?
Silence. So you're good. So LA. Yeah, okay. Same time zone, you know. All right, France. Hate to say it, you're the winner. Yeah. I'm guaranteeing you, if you weren't from France, they wouldn't be clapping. Okay, they're impressed with you. You want to know what you win? You win a free prize. Free rat. A free rat to take home. I don't know if that's translated. Okay. Now, you guys are here because you like history. This is a historic tour, right? Last chance at a refund. Run upstairs if you don't like historic tours. Okay. Yeah, that means we go back in time. We talked about things from a long time ago. In this case, 1850. 1850 we're going to start because 1850, most of the United States lives on the other side of the Mississippi River. They want to move settlers out west. They're going to lure them with free land. It's called the Donation Land Act, and it passes through Congress, and it means that if you move out west and you're a settler, you get 320 acres of land for free. It's a lot of land, and if you're married, this is the best part, if you're married, it doubles. right? So the bar gets pretty low for who you're willing to marry. Both ways. You're like, I don't like you that much, but that's a lot of land, right? And I was thinking about it last night. I think we should do it because that's enough land where I don't have to see you anymore. So they move out west and they split it up in big chunks. And in the 1850s, those settlers are coming out west. There's one major route that gets everybody out west in the 1850s. It's like a one-way superhighway going westbound. What am I talking about? Very good, guys. Yesterday the group said Route 66, so you guys are smarter than that. Yes, Oregon Trail. Mentioning Oregon Trail gets everybody flashing back to their favorite computer game. Oregon Trail. Who played it? Oh, that's a lot of us. What do you remember about it?
Died of dysentery.
Died of dysentery. There you go. Yeah. For those of you who didn't play it, you're like, that's it. That was, yeah. It killed you before you ever got to the end of the Oregon Trail. Now, the Oregon Trail, I'm figuring out now in hindsight, the game teaches you the Oregon Trail is pretty dangerous. You could die, right? And this guy, Arthur Denny, he and his group are on the Oregon Trail. They're starting in Ohio. That's where they're from, and they're on the Oregon Trail going to Oregon to be farmers. And they want to be farmers down in the Willamette Valley. That's good farmland, but they're late, so when they get there, there's nothing good left. They got to make a backup plan. Backup plan says, let's go up to the Washington Territory, not a state yet, because we don't have enough people. We'll go up there, our chances are good. November 1851, Arthur and his group are on a ship out in Elliott Bay, and they're saying, this is a great harbor, let's stay here. Yeah, let's pick a good spot. So for a couple of weeks, they got to look around and make where they're going to make that good land claim. In that time, they end up meeting the local indigenous tribe. Now that's the Duwamish. Okay, the leader of the Duwamish is Chief Seattle. And they live on the hill, they're up there, and you got Arthur standing down here where we are, so this looks pretty good. Now you guys notice this. This is Pioneer Square. This is the original part of Seattle, the old part of Seattle. But when you were coming here today, you realized you walked down a bunch of hills to get to Pioneer Square. You just keep going down hills, and then you're at the bottom of the hills, and you're like, hey, we're in Pioneer Square, right? This is the only part of the city, if you guys are paying attention, it's the only part of the city that sits right at sea level, which is where he stands saying this looks pretty good. His wife says, if it looks so good, how come those guys never built anything down here? That's a good question. Yeah. Yeah, if you'd ask the tribe, I mean, there is the language barrier, but if you'd ask the tribe, they would have said, not there, whatever you do, don't build there, that's tide flats. Yeah, guy from Ohio, tide flats are not in his lexicon. What are tide flats? Not knocking Ohio, but you don't talk about the tide in Ohio. And tide flats are deceiving. It looks good part of the day, right? This guy is down there measuring his claim at low tide from Ohio. You know what's happening. You know in Ohio the water stays there, you go to bed, it's like it's over there. Get up in the morning, it's right there. Middle of the day, it's right there, right? See how it's different, the tide's gonna move, right? And he doesn't really understand this. So mapping the claim at low tide, he tells his wife he'll be right back. Go submit the claim. He comes back in the afternoon and the claim is flooded because the tide came in. And it's flooded the whole claim in about 2 feet of water, except for this little island offshore, about 100 yards offshore. That's where his wife's stuck. Yeah. She's mad. She says, look, come and get me. And he goes out and he gets her, and she starts in, look, this is, you know what, for 6 months we're on the Oregon Trail, and all you did was talk about farming. We're going to be farmers. Yeah. Pretty sure this is a beach. Okay, so there's that. She says, I'm not done. You know, behind the beach, big steep hill, really steep. It's covered in old growth forest. Where are we supposed to farm? Arthur finally admits it. You want me to admit it? I'll admit it. It looks pretty bad. But somehow, some way, we're going to make it work. Now, today, that's known as Seattle Spirit. What is Seattle Spirit, guys? That means you start with a really bad idea. And then you're just going to stick with it. Which really explains Mariners fans. Yeah, so building on the beach, no, it's not a good idea. It's not going well either. Luckily, the new neighbor shows up. He's going to help. This is the new neighbor, guys. Here he is, Doc Maynard. Yeah, he's an actual medical doctor, but he's not coming out here to practice medicine. He wants to start a town, and he realizes if you're going to start a town, you got to give people a reason to come to your town, jobs, business, things like that. And there's not anybody to talk to except Arthur over here. So he's asking Arthur, "What you come out here for?" Arthur says, "Farming." Doc says, "You know, this is a beach." Yeah, I heard that before. What are you going to do? He says, "I don't know, but if I'm not farming, I don't really have any other options. I'm sort of out of options." They want to go back home. Doc says, "Don't go back home. You don't regret that, right? There's plenty of opportunities. Look at all these trees. It's a giant old growth forest as far as the eye can see. Now I'm thinking if we get a sawmill in here, we can make something happen. Because we can move lumber out through the bay. We don't need a railroad. Yeah, look at the trees around here. This is sustainable. These are huge trees, and it goes on and on forever. Yeah, sawmill, boy. Arthur's getting excited. He loves that idea. He just wishes he'd thought of it, the old sawmill. But Arthur is so excited that when he gets home that night, he goes and he orders a sawmill from Amazon. He's reading the reviews. He bought, apparently Alpine Model 3 is the best Amazon choice. Yeah, they still don't have sawmills. So you got to find somebody that's got a sawmill. Bringing us to this guy, Henry. Yes, it's got a sawmill. Two problems with that. One, it's not put up yet. The other bigger problem, it's going in Tacoma. We hate Tacoma. If you guys know that or not, nobody from Tacoma in here today, is there? Usually you smell them. They have a weird smell to them. The room smells funny. So you kind of just sense it. Anyway, we hate Tacoma. They're our rival city. It goes back to the railroad, right? Transcontinental Railroad comes to Washington State finally. It's heading for Seattle, the big city. And Tacoma grabs the railroad and it goes there. And Seattle got nothing. We got left in the woods, in fact. And so we hate Tacoma. Now they're trying to get the mill too. Now, not if Doc can help it. I want you guys to realize this. Doc is the hero of the story. That's why he wears a cape. I got a full cardboard cutout. Doc Maynard's going to say this because Doc and Yesler have one thing in common. They both like to drink a lot. So they both spend time in the saloons. His problem, Yesler, everybody knows somebody like this. When he drinks, he gets loud. Right? That's him. So he's had a few too many. He's bragging about the mill. Now, Doc hears it. Says, my friend, if you bring that mill to Seattle, I'll give you part of my land claim for free. He loves the idea. He brings the mill to Seattle and he puts it up across the street from where we are right now. And just like that, Seattle begins to grow because of that mill. The mill is the catalyst for why Seattle is even a town, right? People come to town to do business or work with the mill. Seattle expands outward from there. They love the mill. The only bad part about the mill is that Yesler came with it because they hate him. And he's, well, good reason. The guy's what you call today a grifter. Right? He's a cheater, he's a liar, and he's a scammer, and he just won't even pay his taxes. So what do you do with those kind of people? You re-elected him. That's right, you re-elected him. Yeah. He's the mayor, and he's the biggest employer in town, right? And those two things, you can do a whole tour on his corruption. But right now, Seattle is wet all the time. And you think, well, it rains. No, that's not why. It's wet because the tide keeps coming in and flooding the town 3 times a day. Luckily, one's overnight. But still, that gives you 2 versions of Seattle. The tide's in, it's like being in a big puddle that never ends, and then the tide's out. You're thinking that's better. That's squishy mud. Those are both awful. Yesler claims he can fix all that. Says he got the solution. The guy runs a sawmill 24/7. What's the byproduct nobody wants? Sawdust. Okay, so the mill produces about a 30-foot mound in a 24-hour cycle. It's a lot of sawdust. And he's told to dispose of it properly, but instead he's trying to flip it. He says, look, you know what we could do? We should be using this sawdust as landfill here on the beach. Boy, there's some Seattle spirit. That's a bad idea. Where'd you get this idea? He says, we used to do it in the Midwest. Well, that doesn't matter. There's a beach, you know. He says, I know, but I have more sawdust. Yeah. Now you guys know, this is some Seattle spirit right here, right? This is a bad idea. Sawdust in the streets. And as far as sticking with it goes, yeah, they're going to do this for about 20 years. Sawdust in the streets. Yeah, you guys know it doesn't work, I'm sure. Because what happens is, you know, what he says his method is this. He dumps the sawdust on the street, which soaks up the moisture, and then he comes back around with a dry layer and puts that on top. It's about 6 inches every night, so he's saying it's going to build us up off the beach, which is not. But anyway, so you go to bed at night, the sawdust is all dry, it looks good. When you get up in the morning, it's wet, because remember what happened overnight. The tide came and went back out. And so all that sawdust is now gray and lumpy, because the salt water started breaking it down. After a couple of weeks, the streets of Seattle are starting to look like these intersecting rivers of oatmeal. Right? Now people like oatmeal, but not in the streets, and that, I hate to bring this up, guys. If water isn't draining out of your town, what else isn't draining out of your town? Poop, sewage, yes, sewage removal certainly has become Seattle's #1 problem. Even though everybody in town agrees it's mostly #2 problem. Well, that was a groan. Right now, hold on, guys. I'm going to let you know if you don't like poop jokes, this might be the wrong tour. Okay, I'm going to say this just to make people feel better. At the beginning, I'm going to flush out all the poop jokes. Okay, and we're going to plunge ahead. No more poop jokes. Oh, wow! I get groans and then I get applause. Okay, so buckle up. It could get worse here for a minute now. Here's the thing. Seattle right now is using outhouses. That's a pit toilet. Everybody knows how that works, even though most of us have never used one. You understand the concept, right? You dig the hole, you put the shack on top. Yeah, works. But you never heard anybody using the outhouse at the beach. And if you think about that for a minute, you start figuring out why you never seen that. You just gotta dig a hole. You guys know from experience what happens when you dig a hole at the beach? Water comes in here, right? So every day you gotta picture this. The tide comes in, right? Gets to the hole, and all the poop down in the hole, you know, tide's in and then the poop's out. Yeah, now the oatmeal has raisins. I don't know, but I did warn you. Now, help's coming. England. Over in England, there is a sanitation revolution. There's a guy in England who has perfected the modern flush toilet. He doesn't invent it, but he perfects it. And the guy has for sure, hands down, best name in toilet making history. No, he's not a close second on this one. This guy owns it. What's his name? Hold on.
It's sugar.
Who says this?
The flusher?
Sugar.
No, I'm going with that one.
Sugar.
No. Really?
Rapper.
Aha! Some students of toilet history.
Oh, we're so close. Come on.
Yeah, you were so close. Yeah. Crapper. Yes, the guy's name's Crapper. That is not a joke. Yeah, and you know where it goes from there. Okay? Crapper. The bonus question, nobody ever gets this. What's his first name? John is wrong. John is too obvious. Because in the perfect world, it'd be John P. Crapper. It's not. I heard it. Yeah, Thomas. Who said that? Who is it? Who's the student of toilet history over there?
Yeah.
Should be proud of himself. Right? Good. You spend a lot of time on the subject, you should be proud. Now, yeah, Thomas Crapper is his name, right? So that's too good to be true. Nobody gets the first name though, right? They do. You get a lot of John. And yesterday, they said Crapper. I said, what's his first name? They said Graham Crapper. That's the best wrong answer ever. Anyways, Thomas Crapper. All right. So they say, well, let's get those crackers. We're going to order a bunch of crackers, right? We need them. That could be the answer to our problems. So Seattle says, well, let's get them. Yeah, but how many do we get? That's the key, right? We're a growing city. You don't want people fighting over crackers. They say, you're right, we should get a lot of them. What's the maximum? They say, that's 1,000 crackers right there. A shipload of crackers. Boatload of crackers. They say, we'll go for the shipload. They say, not eligible for prime, you know. It's all right, no Panama Canal. Right? We're used to this. But it gets worse. They lose the order. It takes almost 7 years. 7 years for the crackers to show up. So it's 1881. Everybody almost has forgotten about the crackers. But they're there. They showed up. Everybody runs to the docks to pick up their crapper. They take it home. They go to work. They're hooking this thing up. And they're doing their best. But they're like, all right, I think I got it. You want to be the first one to try it out? He says, this thing's not even hooked up. He says, it is too. I bolted it to the floor. I used all 4 bolts. I bolted it right to the floor. No, not that part. The back part. See that big hole? Yep. Supposed to hook that up. So what? Direction says right here, city sewer. Why didn't you do it? Yeah, I didn't order my city sewer. What? You didn't order your city sewer. This is batteries not included of the worst kind. 1,000 crappers, we don't have a sewer. They're like, where are you going? He goes, I'm going to get the shovel. I'm going to dig another hole down at the beach. They're like, no, we're done digging holes at the beach. Yeah, what are we going to do? It's pretty sad. These guys can't really understand this concept because really, 2,000 years ago, ancient Rome had sewers. They're brick. They run underground. So 2,000 years later, Seattle says, let's make our sewer out of wood. Run above ground. Yeah, above ground wooden sewer. That's an excellent idea. Let's run to the mill. We'll grab the boards. Yeah, it gets worse. They grab 4 boards, coopering together a square box sewer. What's worse than a wooden sewer? Square. Okay? 4 boards coopered together. It's 6 inches across. How many pipes are they making? 1. 1 pipe for 1,000 crackers. What could go wrong? How does the system work? Gravity flow. It starts at the top of the hill. 2/3 of the crappers are up there. That's residential. So they flush their crapper and it shoots it out into the wooden pipe. Then they take the wooden pipe and they run it down the hill. You know how steep that hill is, right? You know, that sewage comes shooting down the hill. Pretty fast. And it gets down here and the pipe levels out where it meets the other 1/3 of the crappers down here. Right? Whatever shot down the hill gets down the bottom and just sits there until something else knocks it along because there's no incline. And so that lower pipe gets really full, overworked, and it's just nasty because it just sits there until it's pushed along. It leaves skid marks, plops out into the bay. Right? And the best part of that is then the tide gets it, takes it out, washes it out. Far, too, 30 miles south. It's Tacoma. That's a good system. In fact, once Seattle figures out where it goes, they're flushing twice. They're like, take that, Tacoma. What do we know about tides? It's coming back, Tacoma's revenge. All right, here we go. Little pipe sits down at the beach, happily spitting out sewage. Tide returns, starts rising up over the pipe. Pipe's underwater, tide keeps rising. That's the only output of the whole system, guys, and now it's underwater. So now it's not an output anymore. Gotta call it an input. Yep, it's an input. Cold seawater, infused fish, going the wrong way. Up this pipe. Until it hits the sewage, it's trying to get out, right? And the forces are pushing up against each other, and the pressure starts to build because the tide just keeps pushing its way back up the pipe. The pioneers won't stop inputting. So the two forces are building, the pressure is growing, and at high tide, the pressure is looking for a way to get out. Then it finds somebody sitting on their cracker. Yeah, this is when the show starts. You're reaching up to pull that chain, right? And you're thinking, you're expecting what's in that bowl to go down. High tide, different show altogether. Your cracker will become the release valve for the system, which means it's going to show you a feature you didn't know it had. It's going to flush in reverse. Yeah,
No,
buckle up for this one. Here we go, guys. Ready? Pull that chain, you hear a boom. That's the seal breaking. That's your last chance to get out of there. Okay. Boom. You better run. You stay there, you're getting blasted off the bowl by a 6-foot Tacoma bidet. Yeah, you know what that is. It's ice cold seawater mixed with raw sewage. 6 feet high, 6-foot geyser, that's a lot of pressure. As he put the lid down, he said, try that, shut the lid right back up in the air. Yeah. He said, the kids won't go in the bathroom anymore. Toilet training, nearly impossible. With us problem. Because the Cappuccino geysers are ruining this town, right? Starbucks has a historic inspiration for their drink. Okay, flip the letter, not much different in the color, but it's something you try. Anyway, yeah, 8 years of Cappuccino geysers, and that's awful to live with. But finally, the fun stops, because it always does one day. Fun stops June 6, 1889. See how it wakes up and burns itself to the ground? Yeah, and everybody's excited. Nobody died. They're excited. We'll rebuild the town. We'll do it right this time. Right? We'll fix all that. Don't worry, you can trust us. And no, we couldn't trust them. They screwed it up too. That's how we get an underground, because these guys that were supposedly smarter went back to the same site where the old buildings burned down and built new brick buildings. They said, yeah, take that, fire. We're fireproof now. Are we tide-proof? No. Yeah. New city, same problems. Now what? They're going to raise the streets up around these buildings, which is going to create this underground that we're going to go see. You guys ready?
Yeah.
Remember, we're going to have a good time if you guys keep your energy level kind of high, but keep those expectations kind of low. Okay. The other thing is this, a couple of announcements here. Make sure your cell phone is silent when we head out. Don't turn your phone off, just make sure it's not making noise. Keep your mask on over your nose and mouth for the inside part of the tours. We're going to be outside a lot. Okay, so those are what I call regularly scheduled air breaks. Take your mask off. I'm gonna take mine off. That's not peer pressure. Just telling you, get outside, we're on our own. Okay? Get inside, we gotta put it back on. Alright, everybody's good with that?
Yeah.
Alright, the other last thing I'm gonna tell you guys is when we get out there, this is a big group, so we gotta make sure that we stay together. Do not lag behind the group. Do not stray away from the group, right? Especially in the underground. You don't want to stray away to like go take pictures, because rats attack stragglers. Stay with the group, everybody will be fine. All right, you guys ready to go kick some rats? Then let's go, guys. Everybody go.
That's funny. I thought that was a step right there.
Yeah, it scared me too, because I didn't notice it.
Dude, my hand was so hot with him. It's recording 4K at 60p.
going to be a big mob.
Great.
Yeah. You guys want to line up, that's fine, but I want to sign partners. Might not get your first choice. Is that it? Yeah. Okay. All right, guys, we're going to get moving here in just a second. We talk a lot about the mill. The mill is right here where this building stands today, right? Now, the mill took up this block and the one behind it, and there was a big pier that went out into the water where all the ships come to pick up that lump. They can take like 2 or 3 ships at a time over at that pier. What they realized is that the hill's pretty good for something else. You know, they got the sewer pipe going down there. But they also realized that if you cut the trees at the top of the hill, you're deforesting this hill right here. You create what's called a skid, which is like a slide for the trees. So what you do is you cut the tree, throw it on the skid, and it shoots down the hill to the mill. So it's actually a fast process. They got the trees coming down right to the mill. I mean, and if you think about that, you got the sewer pipe down one side, you got the skid down the other. These guys really are obsessed with shooting logs down the hill. And that's the last piece of it. All right, guys, here we go.
The poop jokes. Dude, the udder goat was so small when we saw it the other day.
Yeah.
Because everyone likes the morning one.
That's a big group.
The Merchant Cafe.
Now, I want you guys to realize that all the buildings we're going into today, they're all from the 1800s. We're not going to see anything newer than that. But you'll also start realizing where the buildings have been restored. And you can tell that by looking around. I mean, where the building where the mill used to be, that building has been restored. The building was taken out and restored. Maybe look at the building going into. That is right? Interesting. Some of these buildings look rough on the outside, but you're surprised that you go inside. In there, it actually looks worse. All right, guys, mask up here.
I like this too.
I think it's a pretty old building.
Mm-hmm. Good take us mostly all brickwork.
Yeah. Brickwork's a big sign that it's
We went from bricks to concrete and wood for apartments and stuff. I think it's called the 4x1 concrete first floor and wood. Everything else is like wood. Occidental Avenue, interesting.
Oh yeah, this is what they call urban rustic now. They don't have shabby chic anymore. That's out the window. It's called urban rustic. It sounds pretty official now. Come on in, guys. We're meeting in a big room down there.
Be careful with
All right,
explosives.
all the end of the trade.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're going to see today is everything's built after the fire. So that's 1889 and after. Okay, and I mentioned June 6th was the fire. Not far from here. So if anybody in here is going to Pike Place Market today, you're going up First Avenue, right? You're going to pass First and Madison. There was a cabinet maker shop, blue pot boiling, and it boils over. Starts with a small fire. It quickly turns to a big fire. In the first 30 minutes, the fire goes through the paint shop. There's a paint shop right upstairs, so that's going to help. Then it hits the hardware store that's full of dynamite and ammunition. Then the liquor warehouse. Yeah. Yeah. We got a fire, though, that's drunk and armed. Yeah, they're paying attention. Yeah, that's bad fire. Volunteer fire department shows up ready to do battle. They struggle with water pressure, so as they plug into the hydrants, the pressure drops. They're being harassed by citizens telling them they suck. In the first hour, Seattle loses its fire department based on verbal abuse. They say, we quit. They say, all right, well, where are you going to go? Fire department says, we're going to the top of the hill. Up there, you can get a really good view. View of what town burned itself out down below. Yeah, so for 12 hours, the fire rages. Then it's out. Why is it out? Well, it ran out of stuff to burn. And it burned down to the water line. When the fire's out, they have realized the whole entire commercial district of Seattle, what today's Pioneer Square, has been burned flat to the ground. That's all 33 blocks gone. Nobody lost their home, nobody lost their life. It's not a fast-moving fire, and the houses, remember, are up on the hill. They're okay. But down here, it's all gone. They say, we got to rebuild. Yeah, I think we can do brick buildings now. They say, well, it's cheaper and faster to do wood. Yeah, that's true, but I was just thinking about what happened yesterday. All right, brick buildings it is. They start building brick buildings, the ones we see outside, everybody's happy. About 6 months in, they're starting to lose confidence. They're like, look, yeah, the buildings are going up, but what happened to that, fix the crapper explode? My crapper still blows, when the street still floods. You said you were going to fix that. They say, well, we sort of forgot about that. Forgot about it. Yeah. I'm not sure how you would forget about that. If your crapper ever blew, I'm not sure you're going to forget that day anytime for the rest of your life. Okay? But now we got old Seattle problems, but new Seattle's coming up. Yeah, now they're realizing they screwed up. They're like, oh man, we just did it again with better buildings. Yeah. Now what? Somebody says, what if we raise the streets up around the buildings? They say that's a pretty drastic move. Do something like that. If we do that, what happens? So the second floor becomes the main floor? They say, yeah. So what would happen to that lower floor? They say, well, it just gets left underground. They say that is a stupid idea. So let's do it. Right? Bad idea, stick with it, right? Yeah, here we go. So this is gonna help a bit, guys. This is the building we're in right now. Okay, before it was built, this is the architect's drawing. Here's where we came in, here's where we are. All right, this is a door now, and these windows are over there. That's those windows. So back then, you can see if we were inside here looking out those windows, we're looking out at the sidewalk, the street, and a horse and wagon parked outside. But now we look, we see that retaining wall, because the streets have been pulled up one full level, leaving this part of the building above grade, the part we're in now, below grade, below street level. Next stop, we're going to talk about how they raise the streets up. Right now, I just want to make sure everybody's kind of oriented, you know where we are. Does this make sense? Mm-hmm. We're going to go out that door, which is in that corner. That takes us out onto that sidewalk. That's Yesler Street. So we go onto the sidewalk, we get down to the corner here, and it's going to force us to take right over here to Occidental Street. We're going to keep going, but we're going to do all that while underground. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Don't miss the crapper on the way out. I'm still obligated to point it out because that's, according to Yelp, that's the highlight of the tour. Right? Those guys have gone to great lengths to not have a 6-foot geyser, maybe a 2-foot geyser, but not 6. They have lifted that crapper up 4 feet off the ground.
Oh, I'll go first. Oh, yeah. Wow, there's the street.
Come on up, guys. We got to give people a couple extra minutes crapper time. I see another 30 seconds. Gotta take selfies. Crapper. Okay, so guys, as we're walking out that door down there, I want you guys to realize this. We're walking outside. This used to be fully outside. We're standing on the sidewalk, looking in the first floor of what was called the Corn Building. The old street would have been over here to the left where the wall is. And we would have stepped down off of this wooden sidewalk. We would have stepped right into that muddy beach street. Now the retaining wall is here. The sidewalk we came up on a few minutes ago is hanging right above our heads. So we're headed east on Yesler. we're gonna turn right and head south on Occidental. Let's keep going.
There it is. It's
Okay, guys, watch your step. Come on through.
Ooh. Oriental Hotel.
All right, guys, so we're just gonna gather around this picture. So then get where you can see it.
Yeah. I guess. Did you see inside there?
Come right up to the rope here, guys, so nobody gets in front of you. There we go. Guys that are coming down now, come right up to the rope or go right for the back. You got a choice. Don't be in the middle. There we go. We'll leave the middle open for a moment. Back row, can you guys scoot down a little bit? Don't go too far so you can still see. There we go. Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Now more people coming in.
You know, France is impressed that they're seeing buildings that are over 100 years old. They don't have anything at that age. No, never. They don't have anything underground either. Guys, let's move into this middle section here. Slide in. There we go. And the back row's underrated. It's on a hill. Looking good, looking good. Let's do this. I'm gonna have, yeah, you guys are good. Let's tighten it up just a little bit. Shift down just about half step this way. Good, guys, good. Perfect, thank you. All right, we got a middle space here, guys. Fill it in. All right. It is like, it's like moving ants, but more like cats, right? Yeah. All right, this picture is going to help explain how this whole thing gets put back together. But first we're going to start with the building that's behind us here, right? This is what the sign says, Oriental Hotel. So this was a hotel, and we're standing on the sidewalk looking in the first floor. And this was, well, it's a brick building, we can see that, but it's different than the last building. The last one had the small bricks. These are big stones they're using here. And we're looking in the first floor, so this was a window, door, window. And let's pretend for a minute. We're standing here on the sidewalk while the building goes up. Maybe it's 6 months into the project. Then the city shows up at the curb. For here, starts in with these walls. And these walls are about 15 to 18 feet high, and what they do is they use the curb as the guide. So they run it along the curb, they get down to the corner, and it just keeps going around the block until the whole block is enclosed in one of these walls. Okay? Now, with this gap where we are. So the thing is, we lost those 33 blocks. That I mentioned, 33 blocks went down, and that means they're rebuilding 33 blocks, which means if you think about it, they're doing this thing 33 times. This wall, boy, that's a lot of work. So now we can come over here. This is gonna make sense more now. Now we can see there's a wall on each side of the old street. The old street out behind the wall is empty, but they're gonna fill it with fire debris, got a lot of that, and dirt. They're gonna get dirt from the big hill. They bring the dirt down here, and they throw it in the streets with all the junk, and they start filling it up, and they realize, well, to hold it in, we need one more wall. They say, you're right, go down a block down to the waterfront, build one more of these walls to hold the dirt in once we raise the streets up. So they're down there working on that wall. They get done with the wall down there. They say, well, does it work? They say, yeah, it holds the dirt in. They said, but you know what's funny is we found out that wall down there does something else. They say, what's that? Well, yeah, it stops the tide from coming in. Oh, no kidding? It stops the tide from coming in? Yeah, it stops. Oh, man, they fixed it. Right? They fixed it in the most complicated way possible. They raised the streets up and they blocked the tide from coming in. Oh, they're so smart. Oh, this is ridiculous still. They even got smarter about this. When it's filling up in the streets, they're like, we can put in proper water and sewer now, just like the Romans. There's our old friend down there, right? So they fill it to the top of the wall here, then they cap it off with the road, where the road stands today. So they've raised this whole road section, leaving temporarily deep open trenches both sides of the street. This is a before and after. But for right now, guys, both sides look like this. They're open. So they open trenches.
6 or 7 years of that makes things hard to do that were easy. Like going to get coffee, not so easy. Right? You walk out and you're like, whoop, there's a wall. Going to get coffee and there's a wall here. So yeah, don't worry, the guy put in a ladder down at the corner, right? Oh, so you get down to the corner and it's a 20-foot homemade ladder. Homemade because the ladder store burned down. Right? No, I had no ladder. Yeah, homemade 20-foot ladder. It's not stairs, right? So here's how they expect you to get your coffee now, right? You're supposed to go out, climb up this ladder that's leaning on the wall here. You climb up 20 feet, go across the street. When you get over here, you start looking for the other ladder. Climb down, get your coffee. Whew, that's a lot of work, but you got your coffee, so that's that part. But now, your next mission may be a little tougher, which is what? Going back with your coffee. You're like, well, I'm going to get back to work now. Wait a minute. Yeah, it's hard to get coffee to go in Seattle. In fact, these guys try to go back to work, they spill most of their coffee, and they're like, well, I'm not getting coffee anymore. At least till somebody comes up with some kind of snap-on lid. I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but this whole mess is the inspiration for snap-on lids. You guys knew that or not, but the real fun happens late at night. Late at night, you know, this neighborhood still to this day, but even more so back then, has a lot of bars and saloons, right? And then it gets to be closing time, and they're kicking them out. But they're kicking them out onto the obstacle course. After way too much to drink, they're like, "I'll see you tomorrow," and they're like, "Maybe you'll see me tomorrow," right? Because you got to get home first, and it's a cruel joke, guys. The sidewalk is 18 feet lower than it used to be, both sides of the street, no safety rail. Yeah, so you guys know what happens. These guys come staggering home at night, whoop, into the trench. And for months, people think Seattle's haunted at night because you always hear this late night moaning. They're like, late at night, this moaning starts around 1 a.m. Yeah, I think it's a ghost. It's not the ghost, it's the guy in the trench down there moaning. End of the project comes along 7, 8 years later almost. They've counted nearly 20 guys that actually did fall to their death, taking that Seattle One-Step program. Rough way to go. Knocked off 11 steps, no more meetings. Right, so sorry, you guys are tough. Right. All right, end of the project comes along, and they're going to cap the open trench with the sidewalk, enclosing the space and covering the gap. So we're in here, and there's our sidewalk right here. And when they put the sidewalk on, they start slapping that purple glass skylights. We're going to see some of those. They start putting those in the sidewalk to light these underground areas. So now, 1897, once it's enclosed, that's when it begins to thrive. And it really thrives for about 10 years. It's got this whole 33 independent pods of underground fun. Now, less than half of that is accessible today, because when it closes 10 years later, 1907, and it's closing because they say, well, the underground's got some health concerns. What do you think it is? Mold still have that, yeah. Rats, they're worried about rats. Seattle doesn't have a rat problem, but they got a shipping problem. And with shipping comes rats, and the shipping used to be even closer than it is. Now it's down that way, but it used to be right here. So if rats are coming off of ships, they don't have to go far to hang out down here and start some kind of pandemic like what Seattle's really afraid of is the plague, right? They're worried about having some kind of plague outbreak in the underground. So in 1907, they decide, well, look, we're going to condemn the underground. We're going to seal it off from the public, where it becomes abandoned and forgotten about for decades. Except for the building owner. Now, right away, the building owner is realizing, hey, wait a minute, if that area is getting closed down and nobody's going to be down there anymore, that's a good place to dump stuff. Not dead bodies. This isn't Jersey. Just dumps bodies in places. But old junk and debris, yeah, they're like, well, nobody's going down there. It's creepy down there. I guarantee you nobody would actually pay money to go down there. And here we are. I know. That's a lot to take in, guys. I will sum it up like this. Did the project work? Yeah, it worked. But did they know it was going to work? No. They're winging it the whole way. But it worked so well that no other city copies. The best way I can sum that up. Anybody have a question about this? Just as long as you don't make me defend it. I'm not defending this. I'm just here to explain it. Is it a bad idea? Yeah. It's a ridiculously bad idea. Anybody?
Just quickly, you said 33 blocks is where this all happened?
Yeah.
Nowhere else, just within the 33 blocks. So where is the, can you tell us where the actual, like...
So the northern end of the fire would be where the wheel is, the Ferris wheel. That, even though the wheel wasn't there, I think you guys know that. The wheel wasn't there. Okay. But that's as far as it goes that way. The other end is easy, the stadiums.
Oh, okay.
So the stadiums to the wheel, those are big landmarks to make you remember where that fire is. That's the 33 blocks.
And then on the shore,
On the shore about 2 blocks.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're talking about First Avenue, or we're talking about?
First Avenue, Second Avenue, Occidental, yeah.
Okay,
And then all the way from stadiums to there. But that 33 blocks, we lose the same 33 blocks today, that takes out like 21 Starbucks. Yeah, I know. Anybody else have a question? All right, guys, let's hit up our next spot. Let's get some air. Here we go. Air brake on the way.
Definitely want to see this stuff right here. No way.
Put the storage over there.
Mm-hmm.
It's still pretty nice.
Another hole right there. It's alright.
Be cautious, the sun's coming out. Okay, yeah. Hats, buy big hats, sunscreen. You know, yeah. We'll meet down at the end there, guys. Air brake for everybody. You're welcome, guys. I'll meet you down at the end of the alley.
Pizza smell nice. The pizza smell. Rip Charlie Tyler. Here outside Merchant Cafe. We just went around the whole block.
All right, guys, we are going to turn left. Here we go. Let's get right up to the curb here, guys. Pack it tight. We're going that way. When the light changes again, I want the whole group to make it. All right, guys. As soon as it cycles through the lights again, we're going to cross this way. I mentioned there's that purple glass in the sidewalks, right? There's two panels over there. Those are skylights. Bring light into those underground sections. We passed the two back there, but you can tell they're not original. They're much newer. The purple glass is that original stuff from the 1890s. Now, when we get over there, there's only two, but as we start walking down the block, you're going to see patches of the sidewalk. Patches of where more of those skylights used to exist. But those two are in place still, and it's good for us because in a few minutes, we're going to be underneath those two. We're going to keep them in mind. The purpleness is actually caused by the sun. They're not originally purple. Handmade glass as a reaction to the sun over many, many, many years, it turns purple. That way we can tell those are original as opposed to other ones. And
And we got a green light, so let's cross. Here we go. All right, here we go, guys. We're heading down this way.
That's going down.
All right, guys, mask up. Here we go. Low clearance. Watch your head. Yes, you'll be fine.
Oh wow, it's only room for one.
Nice U-turn happening. That way down by that bench. There's a big picture down through that doorway, and we're going to gather around it and talk about it. Come on down, guys. Eating out taller, yes. Come on down. Nice U-turn. Go back that way. Back
Oh. Normal horse.
I know, right? Like, that'd be the most comfy spot to sleep on.
Okay, guys, so everybody get where you can see this picture. So what we'll do is you guys over here can fold in a little bit this way. You guys can fold back this way just a little bit. Uh-oh, wanderers. Who's down there? Didn't we have this whole conversation about don't wander off? That meant everybody. Rat looking for rats. Come on. That's okay. Well, don't worry. Just, you know, you guys should have taken the 10 o'clock tour, boy. That's best chance at rats right there. Yeah, the overnight, they're back, you know, in the morning, so they have to head out. Anyway, you guys, I mentioned there's a lot of Starbucks in town. I know that you guys can all go home and drink Starbucks anytime you want. So if you're in Seattle and you like coffee and you're like, let's go to Starbucks, that's pathetic. You deserve shame, ridicule, and mockery for any of that. That's like going to Italy and eating at the Olive Garden. Who does that, right? Why don't you do that in Italy? Because you have choices. That's the same thing here. Starbucks is where you go when you don't have any choices. When you got choices, you don't go to Starbucks. Especially if you're in Seattle, you want to do a Seattle thing, you go to the independent coffee shops. That's where Seattle's coffee culture is. You guys want to know which one's better than Starbucks?
Yeah,
All of them. That's right. All of them. They're all better than Starbucks. It is important to remember that an independent coffee shop is under tremendous pressure to get it right.
In this market, you got to do it right, otherwise nobody shows up. Starbucks, they don't care. They just keep pushing mediocre coffee, and people show up. So, you guys, why do you go out of town? To do different stuff, to do what you can't do at home, right? So forget Starbucks, try something else. Oh, all the way. By the way, this is either a hit or miss on this one, but I encourage everybody to go to Pike Place Market. Like if you're in Seattle and you're not going to miss something, that's the one thing you don't want to sort of not do, okay? So you go to the Pike Place Market, stay away from that Starbucks. And the reason being is Starbucks has no shame. They trick people into believing that that is the original Starbucks, of which it is not. The original Starbucks does not exist. It was at the Pike Place Market at one time, but they have no shame and they will encourage people and act like that's the original Starbucks. So you just waited in a big long line for Starbucks, which is unforgivable in and of itself. So I encourage the market, but stay away from that Starbucks, right? If you already went, I'm sorry, but I'm trying to stop anybody else from going, right? Anybody else? I saw, was there a hand? It wasn't Starbucks.
What I heard was the original storage they had, that's where they stored their stuff.
No,
That's why they
no.
call it the original.
No, it was on Western Avenue, on the back side of the market.
No, it's not the original store. It's the-
I know that, but they're not, it's not true. Yeah, they have no shame. Starbucks has no shame.
You confront them, that's what they tell you.
Well, they moved to Seattle 6 months ago. So no, it wasn't a different location completely. They have no shame with that. But I just encourage you guys, you go out of town to do what you can't do at home, try it, right? Here's the thing, let's bring it back here a little bit. You know the big fire that we talked about at the beginning, the big Seattle fire, Starbucks was around that day, and that's why their coffee still tastes burnt. All right, there's no more Starbucks jokes. Now we're gonna move on. Picture of Seattle here before the fire. Pretty easy to tell it's before the fire, right? All the buildings are what? Yeah. If we looked outside today, these buildings would all be gone. Gone. Yeah, gone. It was a big fire. Well, I know that was a while back with the fire story. But we're right here, funny enough. That's where we are. Let's trace our steps. We started here. We stopped here. We waited for the light. We talked about the purple glass. We crossed the street. We saw the purple glass, and then we walked down the block. Does this make sense for everybody? This is where the park is now.
We did it 2 floors up.
Ooh, up here, yeah. Now, here's the thing. We got, first of all, I get school groups in here all the time, which they don't, school groups don't focus on what you want them to focus on. They do what they want to do. So if you're talking about this, they're like, well, there's a UFO in early Seattle. Yeah. And you got to get them refocused. You're like, that's not a UFO, guys. If you look close, you can see that's someone getting blown off their crapper at high tide. Yeah, that's the guys. Thank you. Now, here's the other thing. This rebuild that we just got done talking about, this thing took me forever to tell you guys about that rebuild. So this thing is this big involved engineering process, and it's going to cost a lot of money. That is not a cheap rebuild, right? All this big engineering, albeit bad engineering, but still engineering. Where is Seattle going to get all this money for this expensive rebuild? Well, the weird thing is Seattle seems to have a lot of money, and there's not really an explanation. People can't really understand why. They're like, well, their revenue exceeds their expenditures, and that never happens with a city. Yeah, well, the roots of this untapped revenue source are in this picture. If you look at the picture, you start, well, first of all, it's just a bunch of people from Seattle, but if you look closer, you're like, hey, there's a lot of guys in the street. And then you look closer and you're like, it's all guys. Except for the ghost lady over here, right? Now, this is a pretty good picture of the ratio of men to women in Seattle, which is about 15 to 1, sometimes 20 to 1, right? So if you're one of those guys, you don't have a lot of prospects. No hope, right? In fact, it's pretty sad. These guys just sit around and they wait for the mail, because they're hoping today's the day that their favorite monthly Pioneer Smut magazine shows up. Shoulders and Ankles was the top seller today. A magazine known for bare knee centerfolds. It was the raunchiest, dirtiest magazine you could get. Now, you guys are a tough bunch. All right. So if you have a ratio like that in town, that leaves Seattle as a prime candidate for certain businesses to show up in town to address a ratio like that. Well, no, here come the coffee shops. Right? Yeah, they're starting to, no, it's not coffee shops, though, guys. There's some new ladies. I'm going to be very tricky with how I explain this, so just stick with me on this. There are some new ladies in town, not very many, not even enough to notice. But the city sends out tax surveys to everybody in town, which is going to tell everybody what people do for a living. And they find out for the men, if you work at the mill, best job in town. You work at Yesler's Mill, a little over $10 a month, that's top wage in town. And if you're, then the surveys start coming back from some of these ladies. Now they've realized there's not very many ladies, but most of them seem to be filling out the survey the same. Like they're copying from each other.
But it just, they keep listing their occupation as seamstress or garment worker, and that's not suspicious, except that we don't have a garment district. But they're like, well, that's all right. And then they look down at their monthly income. All these gals, these seamstresses, claim that their monthly income blows past $400 a month. Wow, the guys at the mill are regretting their career choice. They're like, I didn't know Seattle was into sewing like that. His friends are trying to tell him, straighten him out. That's not sewing, right? What do you mean that's not sewing? I'm telling you that's not sewing. That's some kind of quilting or embroidery going on over there. Like, I don't know anybody's going to get paid to sew like that. That's some expensive sewing right there, right? Maybe needlepoint? It could be needlepoint. I don't know. But here's the thing. Yeah, they say, well, that's just stupid. You know what? Never mind. I'm going to go ask the mayor about them. I saw him go for alterations on Friday. So they're asking the mayor about it. What do you know about the seamstresses? He says, not much, but if you want, I'll go down there and look around. Okay, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, go down there and look around. And the mayor goes to look around, but he doesn't come back. With surprise, surprise. He's gone for the rest of the day. So they get done waiting for him, but they get him in his office the next morning. They're like, okay, so, boy, you were late. How was it? He says, exhausting. Yeah. We stayed up till 11 o'clock last night at your office waiting for you. Yeah, I know. I was late. There was one last gal. I wanted to see her do her work. Yeah. So you just sat up there. Boy, that must be loud, right? All those sewing machines going nonstop. He says, you know what? I didn't see any sewing machines when I was there. Actually, those girls I saw last night, they were all doing their work by hand. I lost half the group. Okay, so this handiwork, the mayor's like, I think I got it figured out. This handiwork's where it's at. This is where the money's coming from. Yeah, the handiwork. And it becomes this running joke, how much seamstresses are making compared to everybody else. Goes through the papers, down through California's papers, so they get to read about seamstresses. So in California, San Francisco, there's a woman reading the paper. Her name's Louise Grant. Now down in San Francisco, she's known better as Madame Lou. Yeah, because she's running a pretty big house of negotiable affection. With me on that one? House of negotiable affection. Okay. She's moving to Seattle to start something new. Less competition. Seattle's a growing city. She moves up here, meets with the mayor. She starts asking him right away, do you tax these seamstresses? He says, no. She says, well, that's what you need to do. You need to tax these seamstresses. I'm telling you, the city could make a lot of money if you tax them. Mayor agrees. He's okay, I'll start taxing them. But I'm going to tell you, it's got to be tough, right? There's no way. Like, how am I supposed to know how many hem jobs they do in a day? You're right, you don't want to count hem jobs. There's a lot of those. How about this? Why don't you flat tax them? Yeah, that's a better idea. Flat tax them. He says, I'm going to call it the seamstress tax. She says, okay. He says, I'm thinking like $10 a month. And we're thinking, well, that's not that much. But wait a minute, let's go back. How much do the guys at the mill make? $10 a month. This is a huge tax. This is the monthly income of the highest wage earner in town, and they're suggesting it as a tax. He thinks maybe he started too high. Like Lou's going to say no, but to his surprise, Lou says deal, because Lou just simply did the math. 400 minus 10. And she's like, well, they could probably scrape by on 390. It's going to be tough, but they could probably do a 390. Yeah, keep in mind the guys at the mill could work for 3 years straight and not make 390. And these ladies are making 390 after taxes every month, but the city is also benefiting with this tax because the tax starts coming in, and pretty soon, within a month, the city's already realizing this is working way better than we thought. Maybe too well. Next 10 years, guys, the seamstress tax accounts for almost 90% of Seattle's revenue. A lot of busted seams and repair work. But the funny thing is with the city, it burns down in one day, and then within a short amount of time, they're right there sewing it back together. Guys are tough. Well, okay, I'm not taking any questions about this because it never goes anywhere good. But I'll say this last thing. Madame Lou lives on in Seattle for the rest of her days, actually, to become the richest woman in Washington. So when she dies early 20th century, she's got an estate that's worth between $4 and $5 million, which today puts it between $150 and $200 million. Okay? She doesn't have any family, so when she dies, she orders them to liquidate the assets, take all that money, and donate it, per her request, to the Seattle public school system, making it the biggest donation they ever received. Then how years later, like today, we end up with the Graham High School Stitchers. Boy, you guys are the grownest group I've ever heard. What do you say we just head down this way? Here we go, guys. Don't miss this fancy crapper over here that didn't survive high tide one day. Lots of these spring-loaded sewing machines.
Okay, there's water pipes above us.
Part of the current infrastructure.
Huh?
Part of the current infrastructure.
Yeah. That is wide in there.
Pretty cool.
There's the other side. There's a tree above right there, and you just go straight to there. I didn't get the water drainage. I haven't seen the glass skylights. Oh, there it is.
Oh, whoa. That was not what I was
Come on in, guys. This is a good spot too. Over here's good. You guys can come in right here. Stand right here. Come right in the middle. Watch out for the puddles. Underground puddles. Not something you were expecting. No.
This is so no.
So this is from the rain, guys. That's from basically just leaking through here and puddles up in the corner right here because the floor is uneven. All right, come on in, guys. All right, now got almost everybody in.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
We're slow.
It's okay. Big group.
Are people standing on top of us?
Yep.
Nice.
Oh man, who's been leaning on this post? Let me fix this. There. Safety first, guys. You know, safety first. Everybody shift in a little bit more. I gotta get these guys in. We'll make it work.
Do we have to?
Yeah, we have to. If you were out there, I'd be doing it for you.
I wouldn't be so sure about that.
I'm pretty sure I'd do it. I would do it. All right, guys. So I think you guys are all surprised at how much light is coming out of these. Okay, we walked over them a few minutes ago. They're dark, that weird purple. But you get down here and you're like, wow, they work. And think about this. I got the lights off. So we're really should be standing in darkness right here. But we got the light just from these two skylights here from the 1890s, and we were all able to see each other because of it. Now, there people up there. Okay, what's funny is they don't know that we're down here. Okay?
Can we yell at
Well, hold on a minute now.
Can they hear us?
Yeah, they could hear us. If we got loud, they'd definitely hear us. I'm starting to do it now with school groups only, because you know what's funny is I get school groups. I get about 40 kids right under the glass, and I have them yell and scream for help. Right? Now here's what I found out. It doesn't seem to work with adults as well. People don't care if adults are in peril. They're like, I don't know.
I can yell.
Yeah, I know that. And kids also don't go and write reviews on Yelp to say the tour was too loud. Yeah, see, somebody were yelling. I don't want to make anybody upset. Anyway, now
We should yell though.
we shouldn't.
We should.
You're a prime candidate for a school group. Anyway, see these middle ones. You can see what they would have looked like more originally. You can see some of these middle ones are a little bit more clear. That's supposed what they would look like now. Hey, my friend, in the back, if you go out that door just around the corner, there's a box with a light switch on it. Can you flip that for me? He said, hey! All right, here's what I want everybody to do.
Because it's up instead of down.
Yeah, well, I know, just whatever way it flips, it works, but you figured it out. Thank you. Everybody do a 180 to look at the entrance to this building that's right here behind us. Okay? Now, I'm showing you, this is going to sound weird. I'm showing it to you because it's boring. I know that sounds weird. But it's what I would call intentionally boring. This really skinny entrance, this basic brickwork, what you see down here is not what you're going to see upstairs because these guys have figured it out. Where do you put in the good stuff? Well, I'm not gonna make a grand entrance down here because in a year and a half it's gonna end up underground, so I'm gonna save my good stuff for up there, and I'm gonna use cheap, simple, low-grade brickwork down here to complete it down here, because even though this is where the building physically starts, it's not where it visually starts. So they're saving the good stuff for up there. So remember this simple look. We're gonna be upstairs in just a second here, standing on the glass, and you wanna look at that bank, which is today a coffee shop, imagine that, and see how much different it actually looks from what we're seeing down here. Now, and speaking of the bank, in just a second, we're going out past, there's a little sign that says Teller's Cage. We go out through a bank vault. There's an iron door. Now, the vault was made for holding something, guys, but it wasn't cash. What do you think it was?
Old people?
Gold people, that's called a jail. Yeah, no, it was gold. All right, somebody yesterday said sewing machine. But anyway, it's gold. As soon as this project wraps up, 1897 is the start of the Klondike Gold Rush. And some of you are like, what's the connection to Seattle? That's a good question. Well, you guys all decide that Seattle's pretty close to the Klondike, so you label us the gateway to the Klondike. I don't know who came up with this title, somebody in Florida. They're like, yeah, Seattle's right there. They're darn near next door to the Klondike. But we're not. If you look at the map, you actually realize, I mean, it doesn't stop the people from coming in here and coming, getting their stuff, but the actual gateway to this Klondike thing is pretty nonsense, because in truth, if you look it up, guys, Seattle's 100 miles closer to Mexico. Yeah, so welcome to the gateway to Mexico. I didn't know we were that close, but we are. We're right there. All right, guys, let's head out through the vault. Here we
They
go.
all need their clothes on, come on.
Yeah, they're pretty close. They're all. Okay, here we go.
And they're all with the driving.
Flush your nose, what are you gonna do?
This one's with the draw of people in there.
They have a chair there.
I guess. So now. I'm just worried about this family people.
Yeah.
You know what I think of that?
Needs to be back. Look at that.
That is my thinking of it.
So this was the bolts right here, I think.
Keep doing it. Huh? Pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Dynamite, TNT, explosives, let's go. This looks like the one that came from Minecraft. I should bring it home.
Being overgrown here.
Ooh, go in there. Not good.
Most tremendous projects are trying to figure it out. You get to the corner, you'll see the building looks nothing like it. It's very elaborate. Yeah, you're welcome. Guys, I'm meeting you up on the corner. We're meeting on the purple glass of it. Didn't you wonder where the rest of the group went? Just
Oh, this is where the Spooky Seattle tour starts.
it look like downstairs, right? Not like this. Pretty elaborate. They love the fat, lumpy bricks until they got sick of them or they ran out. Okay? Yeah, they changed it again. Over here, guys, we went to Underground Spaces, left original, a good redone Underground Spaces toy store there. So you might want to check that out later. They moved their stores. All right, guys, we're gonna park it in the garage. Oh, they're in the car. All right, guys. First, park it in the crosswalk. It's in the car. So what we're gonna do? We're just gonna sort of surround them, look at them, and then close it.
Go, go, go. I'm gonna cross the street. Go across. Surround them.
All right, we got it settled. Now she's like, well, I can just move back. They're done.
This way, Emmy.
All right, guys, downstairs, right here. Last mask up. Here we
Oh my
go.
God. Oh, going back down.
All right, I'll get you. You guys get to take the one-step program, but then in the end you end up disappointed when it doesn't turn out like you thought. Still get one record with you. All right, guys, come on in. Please. Right in there, everybody. Come on down. Right this way. It's a one-step program, but in the end you're disappointed. You're like, well, I took one step and nothing happened. Don't worry, you get some great places.
Old tub. Leaking everywhere. Old copper wire. Oh, if they open up the parameter, I'll definitely take that out. Did you see the you didn't see the Ghost Adventures episode when they go down here?
They actually still.
I think I've got a.
Okay, guys, this is our last stop. And earlier, we talked about that you were taking the debris, or they were taking the debris from the fire, and they threw it in the streets to use as fill, right? Which means it's behind these walls here, okay? The walls are holding it in. And this is a good place to look at the wall because we're at the corner. So you can see how the wall really does wrap around the block here, okay? But what it's going to mean for the people that go to do road work in Pioneer Square, like in today's day and age, opening the roads like opening a time capsule, right? Because every time they go out digging, they're like, well, there's some weird stuff in the street. And we're like, we know. They're like, well, then they get all excited because they find, hey, look at this, today we found an old burned up broken piano. Okay, cool. And they're like, yesterday we found some rusty bicycles. Okay, rusty bicycle. But the bathtub, I don't know if you guys saw this, they pull that bathtub out of the street, and you're like, uh-oh, somebody's damaging artifacts.
Sorry.
That's okay, they're priceless. Anyway, in the bathtub, though, you look at that bathtub and you say to yourself, that's a scary looking tub. But you look closer, it's got this copper lining, which would have been really shiny, and it's got very fancy legs, and it's got knobs for hot and cold water, meaning in its day, that's a fancy tub, right? You look at it now, we all say that's a good way to get a tetanus shot.
Yep.
Don't get in the tub, or even for pictures, all right? Most of you guys, some point in your life, everybody in here has been to some kind of theme park or ride, then the ride's over, and they force you to exit through the what?
Gift shop.
Bet you can't guess where we're headed.
Gift shop.
Gift shop. You know what? Number one reason everybody likes the gift shop is working restrooms.
That's true.
Yeah, no, I don't care if I buy anything. I gotta get to that bathroom.
I thought there was plenty of crackers on the store.
Well, we're getting to them. You want working crappers? That's we're coming. All right. No, these are working. And better yet, listen to they work, guys. You got 40 minutes of low tide left. Okay, 40 minutes is enough time for you guys to be able to take your time, but not too much time. If the tide starts coming in there at that point. And we get to the gift shop. The gift shop is like a museum, so lots of stuff to look at. Big wall of pictures, places we've been. The biggest picture on the wall that makes it hard to miss. The big picture of Madam Lou Graham and her top 4 earners. Yeah, the seamstresses. Now here's the thing. Lou is on the left. That's the clue I'll give you. Lou's on the left, okay? But Lou is really progressive for her day. She's got something for everybody. So if you look close at those seamstresses, pretty soon you might come to this conclusion that one of those seamstresses might be a tailor. I'm not explaining that one. You can get that one on your own. Now, here's the challenge, guys. The challenge is for you to look at the picture, figure out who the tailor is, and figure out what the code is. There are codes in place. You can't go in and just ask for a tailor. That doesn't work. So there are codes. So you go in and you will ask for something else. Look at the picture, see if you can figure out what it is. I don't want to figure it out. Well, you don't have to. Then don't look it up.
What's the price?
The prize is you don't have to go on the next tour. If you guess wrong, you're on the next tour. Okay, so this guy yesterday took him 3 times before he finally got it. Yeah. So anyways, come and look at the picture. On the way out, I got a ghost picture. I'm not a big ghost person, but this picture a lady took, and you can come over like you're going to take a picture of it, and this lady shows up in the picture. I don't know if it's a ghost or not, but you guys can decide. People are into that stuff. I understand, so come and look at it. Also, I'm sitting there at this. I love answering questions, guys. If something didn't make sense or you want to know more about something, come over, ask me. I'm sitting there at the desk for that reason. There's a tip jar there. The tip jar is how we as guys make a living and pay the bills, is through the tip jar. And it also gets everybody that sense of closure. Yeah, big thing for a lot of people. I'll say this though, this has been a weird week. This week's still busy. Weekend was busy. Last week I had 2 days in a row where I had 4 people. So my wife had me out sewing on those nights. So anyways, it all adds up. It's all appreciated. But the least I hope, guys, is that you guys came down here at 11 o'clock this morning. That's not like an accident. You guys got up, you came down here, and you hung out with me underground for an hour. And the very least I hope, guys, is that you actually had a little bit of fun. So thank you, everybody, for coming, guys. Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's hit that gift shop, guys. Here we go. Yeah, I know who's got to go to the bathroom. I got to get in there for that fast. We only have 38 minutes now before the tide starts coming in.
Oh, wow. False. Ja, good news start rồi. Oh.
Come on in, guys. I got work in the restroom straight back. I got Lou and her favorites right there. I got a historic crapper, being too fancy to use. It's hand painted, and it's a real crapper. Check the tank. But I got the working one straight back. Hey, man.
Wow, look at that toilet. Valveless waste preventer. Wow, that's like 1920s, right?
Yeah. That was after it was all covered up.
Yeah. You didn't have the railway no more. What was the cable cars? It got destroyed?
Yep. What? We do have a cable car. It doesn't go very far.
There's the building we're in. Holy smokes. The dog. Man who lived in Seattle. Big old tree cut. Gonna get that?
I'm gonna read it, yeah.
I think it's on the gift shop over the other side.
You just line with it, or anything that says.
Yeah, someone dropped a photo. Alright, on to the gift shop.